Uh, there's this new chap, I've forgotten, his name starts with J. Jamin?
Jameis.
Jameis. Where is he standing? I didn't see him on TV today.
You can see the mic?
Hasn't come on.
No. Oh no, it's black color. I'm
Black.
putting a screen. So
Okay. Okay.
turn it over.
Okay.
Okay.
Are we live again? Okay. Cool.
How
Welcome back,
come you are
everyone.
bending and when you're not bending here? So no
You always-
picture. Now you are.
Okay, awesome.
Okay.
We're back. Okay, welcome back, everyone, and thank you for your patience. This is our first day doing this, and actually, it's really just Terry and I and our guests here in the studio. Total shoestring operation. So, you know, we don't have the big mega bucks of Channel News Asia or whatever. It's really just two guys.
No, don't make excuses. We're doing fine.
Anyway, let's get back on topic. So we were talking, before our break, we were talking with Constance Singam, who is one of the great pioneers for women's rights advocacy in Singapore, but who also has lived through many decades of Singapore history and has experienced pretty much almost every general election we've had. Now, before we actually broke, you were saying that you were very impressed with how the PAP had lined up their candidates.
Yes.
And I was asking you whether you felt disappointed by
No. Well, I'm disappointed because they're so clever and they have all they have all the advantages and resources, but they know what they're doing, you know. So I noticed that they had located their candidates very well, and in one or two cases, it could have been a surprise. I don't think PAP is ever surprised, but they seem to have decided there are one or two places they will give up to the opposition. So in that sense, yeah, I was a bit disappointed because I was hoping for a stronger group of opposition parties, stronger group with the ability to defeat PAP's long-standing active members, you know.
Yeah. I think it'll take some time, you know, you've
it
got
will-
to develop slowly.
Yes, well, that's what's exciting about this time is the number of people who are there.
Yeah.
Lot more, and from my experience, this is the first time that we seem to have shed some of that fear factor.
Yes.
You know,
I agree.
I see people prepared to speak more openly. I see people prepared to join opposition party politics. So there's movement.
Yeah.
And perhaps by the next general election, we will see more opposition elected to parliament.
No, I certainly hope so.
Yeah.
Is there any constituency in particular that you've got your eye on, apart from, we were talking about Aljunied and Hougang before, but is there any others where you
Well,
think?
my own.
Yes?
My own for the first time is an SMC.
Marymount, right?
And I watched my candidates, the PAP General, Gan, and Dr. from PSP, Dr. Ang.
Yeah.
And that's one thing about looking at people and watching them talk, you know. General Ang was a
No nonsense? or-
yes, non-entity as far as I was concerned. And suddenly
Okay.
she appears and she is very good. I mean, she's well spoken. And for me, my heart says I should vote for a woman.
Yes.
You know, my head says, no, I want more opposition, carved out of the same patriarchal mold as the PAP men.
Yes.
So that is the way I can give up an opportunity to put a woman in parliament, is because the PAP women are the same as PAP men, you know.
But this one's a general, which
Yes.
is actually kind of, you know, it proves your point, because it's been noted that so many PAP elites, leaders are generals, and Michael Barr, of course, has observed that the surest indication for someone to be part of the ruling elite in Singapore, there are 5 indications. One, a pre-existing relationship to the Lee family.
Yeah.
And then you're male, you're ethnic Chinese, you're English educated, and you're a senior military officer.
Yeah.
Right? And so actually having someone who's a woman who's a general actually kind of fits the mold
Fits the
rather
mold
than
even
is an
more.
exception.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's right. Yes, that's
Yeah.
true. I mean, if you look at it, you will see that most of the PAP candidates come from the armed forces.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of them come from the a lot of the cabinet come from the armed forces. Then you have also people with Chamasi connections being
Yes.
selected, you know. And then, of course, then you have relatives, all those kind of connections. They don't seem to be able to trust anybody outside of their circle.
Yeah.
And that is very worrying, you
Yeah.
know. So, because the circle tend to protect themselves.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, this is something we've seen very much since the 60s, because of course when the PAP split apart in 1963, I mean it split twice, right? First in 61 when Ong Eng Guan left and took 2 people with him, and then when the Barisan was formed in 63. And ever since then, the leaders of the PAP have been almost paranoid about dissension in the ranks, and the cadre system was also designed to mitigate against sort of dissension within the ranks, and that has led over the decades to the creation of a PAP where they only select people who think like them, who have the same incentive structures around them, who have the same background as them, so that it becomes very monolithic in the way they think.
But
in
one
some
thing
ways.
I've noticed the change
Yeah.
is that they were very almost puritanical about checking the backgrounds of people. And if they suspect there is adultery or any kind of corruption, a tinge of corruption won't get past to the PAP system.
That was in the past.
That was in
Yes.
the past. But slowly, of course, because it's very difficult to, I think, keep checking, I don't know. But as far as I can see, they're not as thorough as they used to be.
Which is
I mean,
strange.
that was worrying
Yeah.
too. It was
Yes.
too puritanical, too strict, you know.
Right.
So it's nice to be more flexible, more open.
But I mean, it is a bit strange because we live in an era where everything is more open, right?
Yes,
Where we have less
precisely.
privacy than we've ever had.
But you know, why do the netizens and Singaporeans straight away highlighted these fault lines? Because they're so used to a PAP, which is very puritanical and very strict, and very strict with us,
Yeah.
you know, the non-PAPs.
Yeah.
So of course, they pick a chance to confront these mistakes or fallouts that whenever there is there is a weak point, you want to point it out.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So that is the
Or any sort
situation.
of hypocrisy, I suppose, that's
Yeah.
really important. But I also have to, it seems to me, I have to wonder whether loyalty to a certain group of people within the organization, to the leadership specifically, is trumping this sort of need to pick people who are either very talented or very, or a lot more perhaps independent minded. So instead of picking people who are pure, and also talented, they're picking people more on the basis of loyalty. Because specifically with Ivan Lim, and Ivan Lim, he has Temasek connections.
But I also think that lots of people who might want to participate and want to contribute for the good of the country may not be prepared to because of the culture of the PAP. And that also keeps, because as I said, they have become groupthink. They're not tolerant of other views. So lots of people who are talented and who want to contribute might be reluctant to get into a group, a party like that. So it is self-destructive. That culture is self-destructive for the country as well as for the party.
Well, but then, okay, so the flip side of that, of course, is that we are seeing many more of these talented people show up in the opposition ranks.
Yes.
Has anyone really stood out to you? Or is there anyone you think, you're very excited by, a new candidate you're very excited by?
Well, quite a number of the young candidates that WP has, young women especially, I was very taken by. And then there's this young man, James.
Yes.
I was really taken by. Yes, and I think WP also has made use of social network to their advantage. By presenting these very presentable people, getting them to talk. Whereas the PAP candidates, as I said, they are molded from a concrete mold, and they're unable to relax and be themselves, Well, at least that's it. Maybe they are not like that when they are on the ground, but when you see them, that's the impression I got today anyway. Yeah, no, I think that's fair. Who we act in public and who we are in private are different. I mean, I can say that, definitely as someone who's been very much in the public eye, I get very worried sometimes in public because you never know who's watching. Yes.
And you feel the need to, I think I read this fascinating study of Gandhi about how he felt so constrained by his own bigger identity. Gandhi, the brand, he could no longer, towards the end of his life, behave as he wanted to. He had to be Gandhi, the brand, rather than Gandhi, the man. And that's a, extreme version, but it's kind of like that. And authenticity is something I think people are really looking forward to. Who are these people really, and what are they going to do?
That's right, and that has come true. The thing about the Dr. Tan's party, they're all new. They have not been, and they seem to be also a generational gap between WP, the new candidates in WP, and the candidates in Dr. Tan's party, Progressive Singapore Party.
Progressive Singapore Party.
Yeah, I'm confused by all the PPPs.
Yes.
I wish they would do.
There's a lot of P's on there.
Lot of P's.
It's very strange. I was trying to sort the parties alphabetically.
And red T-shirts.
Red and white. Yeah.
If I am confused, can you imagine people who don't watch TV or who don't get engaged in this sort of life? They have to go and cast their votes. They're even more confused, the advantage of that is, the understanding of the new social network. And opposition are at even greater disadvantage than usual, because we are not getting a sense of who they are and what they are, which we used to at rallies.
Yeah.
Now we don't, I don't know those people who I have to vote for.
Well, I suppose this is the internet era, and in some ways it's forcing us to go and look at their web pages, at their Facebook pages.
Yes.
And so there is the opportunity for a greater, almost more intimate interaction that way.
How many people do that?
Yes, that is a problem.
How many people have a computer?
Yes.
How many people know how to use Facebook? I know even my contemporaries or even those who are 20 years younger than me don't use Facebook,
Yeah.
you know? So
I-
where
yeah.
do they get the information from?
It is a big problem. I think we tend to think of the advantages of this technology, but we
Yes.
forget a lot about people getting left behind.
Yeah, it will be
Yeah.
interesting. There must be data, and I'm sure
Yeah.
the government has that data of how many people actually use social network and how many people have access to computer, you know, because they're introducing all kinds of technology. I mean, even banking. I don't
Yes.
know whether I will ever be able to do that, even though I am more familiar with the computer and how it works. I am nervous about doing my banking, you know,
Yeah,
electronically. So,
Oh yeah, I struggle with it sometimes. If it's not a well-designed system, you know, I came of age in the early internet era, and even then I struggle with some of these if they're badly designed.
So really, I think the government has let down a lot of even more restricted our civil liberties,
Yeah.
you know, at
Yeah.
this election.
Yeah.
And it's most unfair, I think, for how do you choose your candidate who can speak for you without knowing who you're voting for, you know?
And I think it's put so much of the responsibility on us. That's one of the things about technology, right? That the assumption is that you go out and get something, you access the web page, go to the website, instead of going to say, say the government e-services, you could go to a government office or something and get help there. But now they'll tell you go to the website. But if the website is poorly designed, or if you're simply not digital native, or simply the idea that the burden is on you
That's
to
right, yeah.
access this rather than on the government, their responsibility. They're the government, we pay the taxes, right? They have a responsibility to help us, but it's
precisely, yes.
yeah, so it's very exhausting to, I've been telling people this when they ask, how do I know who to vote for? I say, well, you got to do your homework. But actually, that's not how things are supposed to be. This is the elections, it's the most important decision. In some ways, it's the only decision we get to make.
we can make, yes.
And yet, it's still made so hard for us.
Yes.
And we have to do so much work ourselves, and it's
Yeah.
really tempting to just throw up your hands and go, oh, I don't
Yeah.
know.
That's right,
Yeah.
yes. I know, I was talking to a young person this morning and I was asking her, she's a new graduate, and I said, look, how are young people, I know that, I mean, we are aware that there are more young people entering activism, civil society activism. There is an increasing number now, in the last
Yes.
few years, you notice. But she was telling me that there are also a lot of young people who can't be bothered, who maybe they feel helpless because they don't know how to go about it, how to access the information, what to do, because we don't have any civic education, and so there are people, and I know for sure, there are young people who contact me and ask me, how can we get involved in civil society activism, So, which is a challenge for all of us. I think we should go back to elections. We should go back to discussing nomination.
Oh, right, yeah. Well, no, I mean, they're kind of related, because one of the things, younger people have been reaching out to me. I did a Instagram live last night. So younger people have been reaching out, trying to understand how elections work.
Yes.
And how do they decide who to vote for.
Yes.
All this very basic voter education stuff.
Yeah.
And this is actually part of how the elections are very unfair, because all this information is concealed from us, or barriers are put up, right, making it very difficult for us. So it is related to the elections in the sense of we're talking about how the
process is.
Not just the process, the infantilization of our citizenry through the deprivation of education and basic civic education, right?
Yeah.
Your responsibility as a citizen. How are you supposed to carry that out because the government don't want you to carry it out. No.
No,
Yeah.
it's to their advantage,
Yeah.
you know? Yeah.
But okay, this is a good place to segue then, because this is not how it used to be. When you came of age, right, things were far more vibrant, even though we didn't have the technology, but you had
We knew what was happening.
Yeah.
There was, I think over the years, I remember, there was a carnival atmosphere during election time, you know. They come around in lorries and loudspeakers and music and flags flying, and there was excitement in the air. You will feel it even if you're just sitting at home. You know what's happening, you know. Our ideology has become so pragmatic that it has entered our souls, you know, every individual.
Yeah.
And we become very boring. Look at this election is the most boring of all.
in some
you
ways,
know.
yeah.
There's not even the excitement of attending a rally. You
And
know?
this whole pragmatism, of course, New Narrative has a comic on that. If you go to newnarrative.com, you can see this comic on pragmatism, which really is an excuse by people to simply defend the status quo.
Yes.
Right? Because they say, what is pragmatic? Well, what is
Yeah.
pragmatic is what is easiest to do, and what is easiest to do is always keep the status quo, so
Yeah.
it always benefits the party in power, and that's why they say, let's be pragmatic, because they don't want to lose power. So it's really an excuse, and unfortunately we have been very much, I guess I would use the word brainwashed into thinking somehow that is a virtue when it's merely a defense of a certain ideology. It's an ideology in and of itself. But let's come back to the election, because you are part of a generation, the very last generation, who saw a change of government by voting in an opposition party. So can you tell us what it's like to actually vote for an opposition party which the government hated, the ruling party hated, the establishment hated, the Straits Times was totally against them, mainstream media was against them, business people against them, saying this opposition party is dangerous, will wreck Singapore, if you vote them in, you know, your housing prices will fall, you lose your pension, the economy will tank. And Singaporeans voted that party in anyway, overwhelmingly, and we went on to do better than we ever did before, right? So what was that like?
You mean you're talking about Jeratnams?
No, I'm talking about the People's Action Party in 1959.
Oh, that's
They were
that
the
early.
Yes, you're the last person to actually, the last generation to see a change of government.
Precisely, you know. And which is what I wrote in my latest blog. We were not scared, we were excited.
Yeah.
For new ideas. We were excited for new ideas, you know. And we were excited because they were excited. You know, they were so passionate, such visionaries. Of course, there were lots of times when they did talk rubbish about yellow culture and so on,
Oh, yes.
which was a bit irritating, since we were English educated, you know,
Yes.
so that was an assault on the English educated. But they were visionaries,
Yeah.
so there was excitement about their new ideas, and it was also the time when they were trying to win votes, because they were struggling with Barisan Socialists for dominance, and they wanted women's votes, you know, and the Women's Charter was won because of their political struggle.
Yes.
You know, and again, the subsequent election, when PAP promised equal pay for equal work, was also because they hadn't started dominating, you know. So we got equal pay for equal work. And if you look at 2015 elections, you know, what were the issues? Immigration, old age, aging. There are quite a number of I can't recall all of but the issues were very serious, and people were angry, and people were talking about it. 2011 election,
Yes,
2011 election. And that made a difference to changes in policy.
Yeah.
So my point and my concern is that you have to send a message any way you can.
Yeah.
Lower the percentage of votes, vote more opposition in. We are not going to get rid of the PAP for a while yet.
Yeah,
I can't see that happening.
Yeah.
You know?
No, they're definitely winning the election.
Yes,
we know
they
that.
all did.
And
This one
Lisa,
and the next
the
one.
clairvoyant Malayan sundog, has predicted that as well. So we
Who predicted?
Oh, I did this video on my show, the show with PJ Thum, where we did 2 episodes about, one was all about the structural advantages that makes the elections unfair.
Yes.
And the next one was all the qualitative, things like fear, the media bias,
Yeah.
and the timing, which makes the election unfair. So at the end of it, I illustrated this by having my dog, Lisa, pick between several bowls with food in them to tell us which party is going to win the election. Kind of like Paul the Octopus in the World Cup. But before I let her eat from the bowls, I said we have to adjust the bowls to reflect how the election is set up.
Okay.
So the PAP got a bigger bowl filled with lots of treats.
Of course, the cat. Your dog will go for the bigger bowl.
And the opposition parties got smaller bowls with
Yes.
healthy food in them, right?
Oh,
And
okay.
then to reflect the media bias, I put the PAP bowl right in front of Lisa, and I put the opposition bowls all the way at the back. And I
Yeah.
said, Lisa can still eat the bowls, no one's stopping her, right? And to reflect the fear, I stood in front of the opposition bowls with a rolled up newspaper and pretended to threaten her. And I said, don't worry, I won't hit her. She's still free to eat from the bowls, right? So ultimately, I said, Lisa has a free choice. We just, have adjusted it to reflect how the election is actually run.
Yes.
And so I gave her this free choice, and she went and she ate all the nice treats from the PAP bowl. So we know that the PAP will win the election because Lisa, the clairvoyant Malayan sundog, has predicted it.
Well, even if you look at it more logically and rationally, we know that they will. You
Yes.
know, they have all the resources, and they're the established party, and they have the power anyway. So they will, but we want. My point was that we
Yeah.
want more. The thing is, we have to at some stage deny them that 2/3 majority.
Yes, that's
You know,
important.
because otherwise policies get passed, laws get passed without any kind of debate or discussion or the value of that particular.
To be fair, they can do policies and laws as long as they have 50% of the seats plus 1. The
Yeah.
2/3 is just for the Constitution, right?
Okay,
And the
okay.
Constitution can
Yeah.
only be amended with a 2/3 vote. So that's what we're trying to stop, because they have amended the Constitution
Constitution is-
on average once a year since 1965,
I know,
which is
our
insane.
constitution must be the only constitution in the world which is not sacred. I mean, every part of a democratic world, the constitution is sacred, and you
Yeah.
don't meddle with it unless
Yeah.
there's a crisis, you know?
Yeah, well, you look at authoritarian countries, they meddle with constitutions a lot. Thailand has had so many constitutions. They don't
Yeah.
amend it, they just write a
Yeah,
new one.
yeah.
Whereas we, because we've got some continuity, we amend the old one again and again
Yeah,
and again.
yeah,
And it's a
yeah.
colonial constitution that was introduced in the colonial era, designed to facilitate a colonial government ruling over a people, not
Yeah.
governing on behalf of people, ruling a
yes,
people. And
yes.
that's the spirit of the
Well,
constitution.
that's what's happening now.
Yes.
We are